Kulna Gemara. Today we're starting the third Perek Cheskas Abatim. We know we came across numerous different kinds of chazakas. One of the chazakas are like a Cheskas Morakama or a Cheskas Mammon, that if we don't know what the situation is, we say leave things status quo. Or by money, we say whoever's holding on to it, let the other person prove that it's theirs. When it comes to property, it's not necessarily so. I can be residing in someone's property and claim it's mine, and yet we don't say, oh, well, we don't know. And someone else comes along and claims you stole the property, and I can prove that 2 years ago was mine. So you would think that whoever is holding on to it, Cheskas Mammon, is fine, and the other person has to prove it. But my property doesn't work that way, because karka ain't exelis, land cannot get stolen. The person who's sitting in the property, residing in the property, has to prove that the property was theirs. But here the chazaka is, how do you prove it? Obviously, you show a deed of contract. But property, you can stay there for many, many years. So how do we prove 20 years later that it's mine? So basically, we have a rule of cheskas gimel shana. If you've been there for 3 years and there were no complaints, then we say that it's yours. But the chazaka only is effective if it comes along with a taina. That means I have to say that I bought it from you, or I yasha from my father, and then the haraya, I've been here for 3 years and nobody complained. But if my taina is merely that I was here for 3 years and nobody complained, therefore it must be mine, or somebody was meichel, doesn't work that way. You have to have a chazaka with a taina. Says the Mishnah, this chazaka of 3 years doesn't apply everywhere. So it depends where. So let's start the Mishnah. That was a short little introduction. And what exactly the chazaka of shalosh shanim is, we'll talk more about it when we get there. Cheskas abatim, the chazaka for houses, haboides, and for pits and shich, and other rectangular holes in the ground, ha'maides, and a cave with a cover, ba'shevches, and the dovecars, ha'mechatzois, and bathhouses, ubeis habadin. So these are all things that are used year round. Ubeis habadin and olive press plays, ubeis hashlachin in the field that you have to irrigate. Because you irrigate the field, you can continuously use that field. When the season for this is that, when for that is that, because I'm irrigating anyway. I don't care when the rain season is. It's totally irrelevant. Bavodim, and so too with slaves, the chol shehu oiseh peidas todin, anything which is in constant use, is cheskosan sholosh shanim, chazaka is 3 years, mi yom liyom. In order to have that chazaka that will support my claim, I have to be there for 3 years from the day to day. Today, what about a field that, in other words, no. They means that if it was Aleph Nisan when I started, it has to be Aleph Nisan 3 years later. So it's not just the third year, a week into the third year. Just beginning at Cheskas Abatim. Today, Habal. What about if it's a field that relies on rain, and especially at Yisrael, there's a rain season, and the rest of the year nothing grows. So it's there Habal. If it's based on the rain, then it's Cheskasan Sholosh Shanim of the Einim. Then you have to have 3 years, but it's really 3 seasons. It's 3 seasons. So, you don't need day to day anymore. 3 seasons of opportunities to grow things go by, and this person who's squatting there or residing there uses all 3 seasons. Then we say that the owner, he must be the owner, because the real owner would not have relinquished and given him permission 3 whole seasons every year. The rain, the only time you can grow in the field is when it rains. So the rain season. That's right. So you don't need miyom liyom. Now the Mishnah has 2 Tanaim. Rashi learned that the Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, just explaining it. Others say these are 2 other opinions. Rabbi Shmuel says all you need is Gimel Chadoshim B'Rishayna. All you need is 3 months in the first year. The last 3 months in the first year where certain things can grow. When we say generally, we talk about years, we're talking about Nisan, because that's when the growing season is. So 3 years, the end of the first year, Gimel and right before Nisan, Gimel B'Acharayna in the first 3 months, the year and a half later, and so you have the last period in the first year, then you have the entire year, then you have the first period of the next year. Your total is Yudches Chodesh. All you need is 18 months, and that's 3 seasons of growing, and if nothing happens, then that's it. Or in this case, here we're talking about Rosh Hashanah. So the last 3 months before Rosh Hashanah, then you have the year, and then you have again 3 months after Rosh Hashanah. Okay. But you need proof that you actually sowed and you planted and everything else. Rabbi Kiva says, no, there are tvua that can grow in a month. Gemara later say they're arguing Peter Rabba, Peter Zutter, we're talking about vegetables or just fruits. learning more in a few days now. Kiva says, even 1 month, even 1 month in 1 year, and 1 month in the year and a half later. The Yud Beis Chayid B'Emtza had a Yud Dal for a total of 12 months. Amar Rabbi Shmuel says this is also when we say you need 18 months with the birthday love. We're talking about. We're talking about his day Baal, or relies on rain, and according to Bishmol, 18 months. When do we say that? Bizday Lavan, when it's a wheat field. Ava Bizday Elon, if it's a tree field. So trees, each tree can bear different fruits, and fruits grow in different times of the year. Is all you have to do is have 3 different kinds of fruits. Kanis es tuasa. If you can go ahead and bring in your tuah, interesting here to recall or refer to grapes as tuah. As Teresa said, there's a pasuk in later in Kisavos, it's tuas akadim. One can say, then Kanas to us, then Masik is Asif, and another tree, then a short while later, you go ahead and you cut down the olives. And then Kanas is Kaisa, and then you go ahead and you bring in the dried figs. And 3 years, even though it might be all in the same year. But it's because of different kinds of fruits. A balabas would have been Meicha, the real balabas would have protested. What are you doing in taking 3 different seasons and here the 3 seasons are all in the same year? Because by trees, each tree can grow different fruits. The particular order is a bit difficult. Taisa says l'chayda kaitzoy summer. That's when you dry the figs. That should have been first in the order. So Taisa wants to say one answer is that they should actually dry the figs initially hanging on the tree. So true that that's kaitz is because that's when they dry. So l'chayda that should have been first. They dry on the tree. They don't collect it because they don't bring it into the house because it says kanas. They don't bring it into the house till much later, till after the season of the olives as well. That's one of the answers in Taisa. Or other places, even though it's lying on the field, they still don't bring it into the house till much later. Said, so now what's the svara of chazak of 3 years? What's that all about? I heard Mahilchi Usha, I heard from those people. Remember the Golas, the Bezna went to Golas 10 times Marajana, and when they went to Usha, they would say, later on we'll see the Hilchi Usha is actually Rabbi Shmuel. That they said, how do you know the chazak is 3 years? We learned that from Shayr Amud. We learned about Kama that the first 3 times the Shayr is a tam, and the 4th time, if it continues to gore, that means the Shayr is a mud. So ma shayid hamud, just like a shayid, well, hamud, just like shayid hamud. Kima shenaga gimel gichis. Once it gores 3 times, nothically it transforms the animal mecheskas tam become le becheskas muad. It changes the whole status of this animal. Now this animal is what is a muad, and therefore now you pay the full nezik if it causes damage. Hachinami here too. Kiva the first 3 times it says mishuna, it's not normal, so you only pay chatzi nezik. Hachinami here too. Even the ochlet klashan, since 3 years you're in that field and you consume the product of that field. Knows we're understanding right now. It's the 3 years themselves that make the kinyan. That's the kinyan. Not because I bought it from you and this is just to support what we talk about, you'll lose your start. No, just like the muad, the 3 times changes the animal, the 3 years changes the status of this field. That's what we think. First question is, if you compare Hermuad, by a Muad, okay, 3 times you would clear your Muad, but you don't pay till the 4th time. So if we're going to compare here to Muad, then the din should be you have to wait a 4th full year before we say that the land is yours. Wait till the 4th year expires. Says what are you comparing? Some over there, yes. We'll classify you as a mood, but what are you going to pay? You haven't done any damage yet since you became a mood. So therefore, okay, okay, and then if you don't cause any more damage, what are you going to pay? So when it comes to payment, you have to wait for a 4th time. If you ate it 3 years, then that's it, it's yours. We'll call you a mood, we'll call it yours, and end the story. So therefore, that's what the whole Chusha said. We compare it to Shara Moed 3 years. So when you understand right now, the 3 years themselves make it yours. Why does the Mishnah later on say? Now, when does a chazaka works is the chazaka supports your claim. My claim is that I bought it from you. And my claim I bought it from you. My claim is I yashin from my father. Whatever my claim is. And Baharaya, I've had 3 years and nobody complained. Right? So you need a tiny. But if you're telling me it's who cares you boy didn't buy the chazak, the 3 years themselves, that is what makes it mine. What do you need a tiny for? I can say I did my money, but I've hit 3 years and it became mine. Alamat now, because that's what we want to understand right now. We learn from Shara Muad. We're trying to understand the chazak of 3 years. Where do we learn it from? So right now, the Gemara's premise is, or the Halchi Usha say at least, we compare it to Shara Muad. After 3 times, the animal changes its position. So we understood right now. With the same thing with your karka. I'm here 3 years, it becomes mine. So he was asking, so why do we need a taina for? The 3 years themselves makes it mine. Alamat now, why did we learn? Called chazaka she'eni mataina. Any chazaka that doesn't come along with the taina ain't a chazaka. It's not a chazaka. So Gemara says you misunderstood. If the 3 years is a kinyan, but a kinyan is only if somebody sells it to you. A kinyan is only that something happened here. If it's hefkes, it's a kinyan. If somebody was belonging to somebody, I'm kinyan because he sold it to me. So the 3 year chazaka, even if you learn to move it, you need support a taina. So we're asked. Time in my damini we say dil mukadama hashta. The whole idea of a chazak is that 3 years go by, and therefore it's supporting his claim. Now, boss, the 3 years is the kinyan. The 3 years is not a riot. It's not a riot to his claim. It's the kinyan of his claim. He's saying I bought it, and the 3 years is my chazak. No, but you still need a taina. Maybe Taka telling the truth. But if he doesn't claim that I bought it, he just says, "Look, I've been squatting it for 3 years. Nobody said anything. It's mine." No, not lead to lane. Are we going to taina? We have a thing at tanin lekeyach. If you bought it from somebody and somebody claimed that the person you bought it from stole it from me, so we're going to taina on his behalf. No. Everything is legitimate because we have proof that he bought it legitimately. You prove that the seller, the vendor, was a ganef. Or if he yashed it from his father and he can prove it, yashed from his father, and someone claimed against his father, then we say tanin liyader, tanin lekeh. We will advocate on their behalf. But he himself doesn't say that he bought it. He just have it here for 3 years. We're not going to advocate on his behalf. Okay, El Ma'ata, so if we're going to compare it to Shara Muad, then it should be identical to Shara Muad. What do we know about Shara Muad? It says of the Huad the Bala. By Shara Muad, it says that when you go ahead and you have to warn the Bailim directly, the owner of the animal, that your animal gored 3 times. Huad the Baila. We had a chakir in the Gemara in Bava Basra there, whether are we warning for the animal, are we warning for the person? The enough community was over there, whether if he was told 3 times in one day that your animal gored on a Monday, then on a Tuesday, and on a Wednesday, what happens then? If it's the animal, we need 3 different days. If it's the person, then the other way. If it's the animal, then it doesn't matter when it happens. Then you chayiv even though you were told about it all at the same time. But if it's for the person, then you need to give 3 different hasros, 3 different days. But the bottom line is, the owner has to be told so that he can take care and mind the animal. So the chayda, why is it then later on, except 3 parts of it, you doesn't work. But otherwise, the owner lives in another city, he can be meich over there, and eventually word travels and will get to you, maybe not. But the chayda, if you're learning from Shara Muad, then it should be that vendor has to come make his trip over here and directly face this person who's squatting in his property and tell him. So we answer, do me the Shara Muad. It's not exactly Shara Muad, it's similar Shara Muad. Sorry, that's part of the question. We should be dafker in front of him, and so the Gemara, there it says clear in the pasuk, the guys are kosev v'huad b'bailim. You got to tell the bailim, he has to know about it. Over here we say, you could be meicha wherever you are. Your friend has friends. The chavra, and these things are not kept secret, and they pass them on. And these friends have many friends. Right? We know everybody in the world, a multiple of 6, 7. Everyone knows everybody. So therefore, over here it's sufficient to be meicha even like the fun. Ready Gemara, we have a machlekes that made Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, if you gore 3 times, 3 different days, tomorrow and Shulchan, the pasuk says 3 different days, you become a muad. What happens if he gored 3 times on the same day? If he gored 3 times on the same day, that made holds that koshken madach richen nigechayis madach they're far away 3 different days, and yet you come a muad. If it's koshken kill nigechayis, surely we brought it 3 times together. Surely you should a muad. Interesting. The Torah Shulchan Aruch brings from here the Maram Rutenberg, who learns Rameir Shita that if you said 30 days when you say Mashu Ruach, that's told 30 days, then after that you don't remember what you said. You weren't thinking, so we assume that you said you changed your habit. So Maram says that if you practice 90 times consecutively in one day, That's what I would do. Rabbeinu two brings it up. Rabbeinu Peretz argues, and he said there's a difference between natural nature, or between talking, between saying. Over there, talking about an animal, we're talking about the nature of an animal. So we say kolshkein, if you can have frenzy in 3 times in one day, the nature obviously changed. But in Yehergel L'Shoina, he says, just because he did 90 times today doesn't mean tomorrow he did the same thing. That's what the Pettit says. And others argue, no, that Hergel L'Shoina is just like nature. You became your new nature. Actually, the Taz asks a very strong question. How can that, and the halach is like the Taz asks, it's also brought in Hergel L'Shoina. The Taz asks, how can the Rabbi say what he says when that's based on a mayor and the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda? Now we don't say kiv negochos of the kolshkin. In fact, the halacha is it has to be 3 separate days, and yet you're using a mayor to teach this halacha, and that became a big issue we won't talk about. Okay, let's continue on. So the mayor holds riche negochos of chayv, kiv negochos of loy kolshkin. Should we bring it together? Loy kolshkin. So that's a question. So what about we said 3 years, right? Because they ochla plus a peda b'chad yoma. If you ate 3 fruits on the same day, how can that be? So we talk about a case of figs that some of them are ripe in the morning. They once they're ready to be ripe, they're very quick. So some are ripe in the morning, some become ripe in the afternoon, some become ripe very late afternoon. So we ate the 3, and each one wasn't ready to be eaten while you ate the other one. So you have like 3 different tranches here. It should be a chazaka even in one day. What do you have to take 3 years for? So the Gemara could go into Eina level chazaka. The Gemara again, doing the Shar Muad. No, comparing the Shar Muad. What do you know about Shar Muad? Ma Shar Muad be either the Isla Hanigicha, less Hanigicha. While it performed one in the goring, it didn't do the second one. Each one was totally a separate entity. Over here, while you're eating the ones that are ripe in the morning, the ones that are about to become ripe in the afternoon are there already, and they're very, they're fully grown. Just a question of becoming edible. The sun has to sit a little bit more and bake a bit more to make it edible. That's not called 3 separate negichas, or 3 separate events. It's like one long event. Hanigicha, lesel hanigicha. Hach over here, nami be either the isel haipeda, lesel haipeda. We need a case in order, if you want to compare the Shar Muad, we need a case that where you ate one kind of fruit, the other fruit didn't exist. Okay, what about achot losa peda kigoyin selav? You ate, let's say, capers. Now, capers take a few days to grow. Let have chazaka, so let that be chazaka, because while you're eating the first branch, the other one is like budding only. So, it's tiny, it's very small. So it takes 3 days for it to bloom. In that case, why don't we say that'll be chazaka? My answer is hasam peda mia isa umigma the kagamba azil. That what by capers, even when you ate the first one, the other one is there. Okay, it's budding, it's tiny, but it's there. By a muad, when you did the first goring, the second goring didn't exist, didn't happen at all, in any phase. Okay, it's all about ochla tlosa pedi, but tlosa you mean. Let's say you ate 3 of them in 30 days. What kind of pedi we're talking about? It's going to some kind of animal fodder. It takes 30 days to grow, but what they used to do is after a week or so of growing, they would cut it down, and they could eat a little bit of it. They cut it down, then grow quicker again. They cut it 3 times in 30 days, and each time they cut it, there's almost practically nothing there. So you have 3 seasons in 30 days. So according to you, it should be chazaka. Look like Shar Muad. Let be chazaka. Says the Gemara, heichi dami. How does it work? The kadiyah ba'achli. You never let it grow to full height. The way it works 3 times in 30 days. You never let it grow full. It starts growing. As soon as it starts growing, you cut. And this is better improves this particular, whatever it is. This asafshda, this animal fodder. The kadiyah ba'achla. That's not called eating. Hasam mishamid the kashamid va'ach. It's not like he's eating properly. It's like he's stealing. It's like he's not waiting for it to bloom. He's never really ever matured completely. Therefore, it's not called 3 kind of eatings. Okay, what about ochla tlosa peva tlosiach? Sorry?
Animals.
Yeah, you give it to animals. Yeah, it's not really human food. But the idea is that's what it's grown for. It's grown for animal food. It's still a season. Ochla tlosa peva tlosiach. Okay, take this as that takes full 30 days to grow. So you waited. Okay, you waited to grow the first full 30 days. Now it's grown. That's 1 month. Then you plant it again. Then you plant it again. So in 90 days, you have full chazaka. Why 3 years according to you for the Shar Muad? And for the Gemara, you're right. Man holchi usha. You know who the holchi? Whenever we say holchi usha, that's Rabbi Shmuel. Rashi doesn't know where we know that from, but it's Rabbi Shmuel. The Rabbi Shmuel Hochinami, you're right. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you're right. It's taka 3 seasons. You don't need 3 years. In our mission, it says you don't need chazak k'miyayim l'yayim. And we said last month, 12 months, last 3 months, 12 months, first 3 months for the 3 seasons. It's not Rabbi Shmuel Shmuel says, and Shmuel goes further. That's talking about a wheat field. What about a field that has trees? Every tree, different fruits. Karnas at so you brought in the grapes. Umasa gazesav, and you pull down you collected the olives. The karnas at and you brought in the dried figs. How do you get a him? Even though it might have happened 3 months, 3 consecutive months. Taka Bishma holds that, no problem. Okay, so that is the first opinion, the basis for chazaka of 3 years, based from Sharamud, and therefore the Bishmal and Rabbi Akiva both say that it doesn't have to be a full 3 years. The Rabbanon who don't agree, this Rabbi Shmuel, they hold that you always need 3 years. They don't hold it as 3 seasons. No, where do they learn it from? It can't be Sharamud, because then 3 seasons would have been good enough. Rabbi Yosef Krok, there's a pasuk. Yirmiyah was telling the Eden that we're going to end another Hanani ben Azor, who was telling them we're going to go whatever. We're going to Bavel, and then he started telling them what to do. And in fact, he sold some of his property. He got Hanamel there to buy his properties. So he said in the pasuk, he said to them, "Sodas bakesev yiknu, go out there and buy your fields with money, and write down contracts. Make sure you seal them and you store them." Now, Sharinovi Oimid Be'esed, he was standing in the 10th year. They tell him next year we're going to Bavel, and therefore he's saying, and it's not enough the fact that you can be living in the property for 2 years, write contracts and store them. Is that ayah? That 2 years is not a chazakah. So all the Rishonim ask, but how do you know 3 years is? All you know here that 2 is not. Who said 3 years? And this is the Matthias. The Matthias is that he told him the 10th year, so he's telling him to write a contract. Maybe 10 years is also not a chazakah. Maybe 10 years also you would need a bishtar. So the Rajba and some others' answer is, Taisha's answer is that the Girsa should be the 9th year he stood up. And he was telling him about, so like, of course we don't have a full 3 years and so on. But the Rajba says that, it's, why didn't he get up the year before? Why do you wait till the 10th year? But had he got up the year before Taka, he wouldn't have had to tell them that. The fact he told them the 10th year is he wanted them to write a star. Why Taka did he want them to write a star? So the Gemara continues in a minute. So Chayda, we want to bring it out from there. That's 3 years of Chazaka. So Mazalacha says, he said, because we're going to be evicted here in the third next year, so let's keep status. I want to buy Dimahasam Eitz Tevik. In fact, the ultimate goal was not telling them halacha. His only goal is we're going to be 70 years in Bavel. So therefore, I'm giving you advice. Put it in a star, store it, so you'll have proof and evidence that the land is yours. And as Rashi says, you wouldn't have to have Eidim if people come and claim against it. I mean, it's a little bit hard to understand. 70 years later, 70 years later, who's going to remember Eidus? How many people are going to be alive still that were remember and will remember 70 years later whose property was whose property and so on. But anyway, an Eitz Teva put a story. But if not so, look at Eitz. He gives him more advice. He says when you're in Bavel, he says Benu Batim v'Shavu. He says go build the houses and sit v'nitu ganas v'achlu as period. Plant trees and eat the fruit. What's he telling us for? He was telling the people already in Bavel before the rest of the Eden were to you just go to Choni. He said, why don't you build some houses? You're going to be here for a while. Settle down. Why? My come late give him a good advice. Teda, I'll bring it out. Let's see what it says. He tells them the story. When Satan plays them everywhere. Leman yamdu yamim rabbi, so it should last for a long time. Clear. What's the purpose? He's not telling you a halacha. He's telling you my advice is to avoid any machlekes and keep the deeds. Ela marava. So Rabbi says, Nusa goes back to the question. What's the basis for 3 years chazaka according to the Rabbanon? They don't hold 3 seasons. They can't live a Sharamud. So Rabbi comes along and says first, Shasa Kamaisa Mochel. The first year, if you're moving into my house and I'm in my field and I'm not there, I'm Mochel. 30 Mochel, 2 years I'll be Mochel. But Mochel. 3 years I'm Mochel. So if I allow you for 3 years, this is Mechila. So Baya right away jumps in. Baya said, Abel Mechila. Let us go. You tell me 2 years is Mochel. So why is it then if after 2 years he protests, you have to give the land back and you have to pay, reimburse him for all the fruits you ate over the last 2 years? But if you tell me the Baal Bas is Mochel, why'd I pay for the fruits? Then why do you have to pay for the fruits? Give the land back, but don't pay the fruits. You're like Mochel. You have to pay back the fruits as well. The first year, a person is not his moichel. He's not going to throw you out, but I'm not moichel you, so you still have to pay me for the fruits that you took without permission. Tarti loy kapit, but last 3 years kapit. If he didn't say anything, must be the other guy is saying the truth that the feelers is. If you tell me it's very subjective, people who are makbinat, we had a kedushin there about this particular family that we asked over there if kedushin, a woman doesn't want to be, for a proto or less than a dinner. What about the Bay Bala Yoshib? His family were very wealthy. The Kopti, they're very makbid. Then according to them, even if a month goes by and somebody's in their field, must be that it's theirs because they wouldn't tolerate a stranger trespassing. I feel I'm on the chalav mitzvah to do it, just walking across trespassing. You're going to argue therefore after 5 minutes if they wouldn't throw him off the land, it must be his. If you're going to argue that's the case, then it comes out that there's no uniform law. Everybody does differently. So Rabbi Feiner concludes. Shasa Kamaisa, the first year, the person is very careful with the star. Tarti, the person who bought it has the contract, keeps it. Tarti. But class Mizdar. Tvei, but once 3 years go by, nobody complains. Loi Mizdar. Today we give it to the bank, we have a mortgage, so they take care of your deeds, they have it there. And so on. But in those days, you had to keep it in your house somewhere. And remember, we worried about mice and all that. That's why the shaver wasn't a good idea having a receipt, because how long can you hold on to a receipt? So over here also, after 3 years, I wasn't very careful anymore because nobody complained. So the chayda, if there was a machal b'fonav and he didn't know about the machal, so he did for after 3 years he was lax and he allowed the thing to go, but he didn't know that there was taka protest somewhere in another country. The vendor complained. And his argument is, if you would have complained in front of me, having been the hamish I would have been careful, but nobody complained. I didn't hear about it, so I wasn't careful. So what's sort of your meicha overseas? Why should it suddenly be that my chazaka is not a valid chazaka? So we say what we just said before. It doesn't matter even where he is, because it'll eventually get to you. Your friend has a friend, the chavrach, obviously, and the friend of your friend has a friend. So there's a famous tzayis in Kuf Mem that goes by Riches to explain what exactly is this chazaka, and he makes a machlekes between the Rambam and the Ramban, or Ramban, whether it's a takanas chachamim. In other words, really, what is this? Where's your start? The chacham, however, said we can't live this way. So it made a special takanas chachamim that after 3 years, people are not careful with the status, the land is yours, can nobody complain. That's one way, and therefore, if you are and Rabbeinu Yein is mechadish. I can't remember because bring Rabbeinu Yein, but Rabbeinu Yein holds. Rabbeinu Yein says that if the guy was meicha to 2 Eidim and the 2 Eidim are made in court, they never told anybody. They forgot. Didn't tell anybody. It's still a good mecha, according to Rabbeinu Yein. Others argue. So that he said makes sense now. Rabbeinu Yein, because the whole thing that's kind of chamim, that 3 years that people don't hold on to status, and therefore if that vendor did the right thing, then the chachamim we didn't make a takana. Because he did the right thing. Either Aiden did the wrong things, you can't penalize the vendor for that. So therefore, it makes sense why Machash on the phone, even if it never got to him, and even you never got to him, it's still a good Machash. But the Ramban holds that no, it's a beater mahatoida. It's not a gzesa. It's a svara. The svara is that if people generally do not allow someone to move into their property for 3 years and not say a word, and if it did, it's a klora raya mehatoida, that it would be a valid chazaka. He's saying the truth. And the Achrayim will say, based on that, what would Taka be in the case we just said, Ben Yena's case, the Rishonim who are Ben Yena? They want to say that's the svara of those Rishonim. If this guy never heard about that mecha, if you were meicha there, 2 Eidim, but the Eidim clearly said you never passed it on to anybody, then this guy's chazaka is still a valid chazaka, because he still has his beater was a good beater. And you can't say, oh, there was a mecha over there. How was he supposed to know? And therefore, the logic says that he did all the right things. 3 years went by, and nobody came to complain. And you should have made an effort to make sure that it gets over there, or you at least tell those Eidim you told to pass it on. Okay, continue tomorrow, Mr. Shem.